and welcome. You are watching News9 Live. I'm Krishna Kumara. The top story that we're tracking at this hour. At a time when Maldives President Mohamed Muizzu is on a visit to India, having attended the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Modi, Maldives has insulted and backstabbed India. The Maldives Parliament 241 committee, which oversees security forces, has decided to undertake an inquiry into 4 agreements signed between the Maldives and India during President Solih's administration, citing threats to the sovereignty and independence of the Maldives. This decision was made following a proposal by Hithadhoo Central MP, a government member, to review all agreements signed between the Maldives and India under President Solih's administration. The agreements to be reviewed are Hydrography Agreement, Hithadhoo Tilafalhu or UTF dockyard being built with grant assistance from India, Dornier aircraft gifted by India to the Maldives Defence Forces for humanitarian and search and rescue operations. To understand this better, I have with me my colleague and friend Aditya Raj Kaul joining us in the studio over here. Aditya, who better than you to help us understand the nitty-gritties of foreign affairs of India? It has become a complicated relationship between India and the Maldives. Once upon a time, we were singing in harmony, and the last 6 months, ever since the new administration took over, it's been one problem after another, and it looked like things were going to be patched up. Now that Mohamed Muizzu made it to the swearing-in ceremony, look at what's happened right now.
Well, Krishna, traditionally and strategically, we've had very good ties between India and Maldives. The current opposition, MDP, or several of the former presidents and vice presidents have been great friends of India. India has come to the rescue of Maldives several times. But the recent decision that has happened only today by the Maldives Parliament is very unfortunate. It's sad, and it's also akin to backstabbing India, insulting India at a time when President Muizzu is in fact in New Delhi. He attended last evening the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the 3rd consecutive term. Prime Minister Modi, as a good leaf, as a as an olive branch, sent in this invite to President Muizzu. In fact, the relations over the last 6 months have been terrible. You had that ministers of the Muizzu government, in fact, having tweets against the Hindu community, against Indians, mocking Indians, and yet there was no action taken against them. There have been a lot of controversies in the recent past, and the recent example of the Parliament's 241 committee in Maldives deciding to review 3 important agreements. In the past 6 months, there was another controversy which is of the soldiers of Maldives, soldiers of Indian army who were there in Maldives, who were operating these Dornier aircrafts only for humanitarian relief, only for rescuing people. They were sent back, civilians were replaced by the soldiers that were operating that, and now the Dornier aircraft in fact is under question. Imagine something that is given and gifted by India as a relief measure, as a humanitarian aid, is being questioned by President of Maldives today.
That's the most shocking thing I could see from the 3 things that have been questioned. Of course, let's bring this back again. The hydrography agreement, the Hithadhoo Tilafalhu or UTF dockyard that was built with grant assistance from India, and the Dornier aircraft gifted by India. Here is the thing, Aditya, we gift something on a humanitarian purposes and for their own good, for their own search and rescue operations, and they're questioning that. And also, they're also questioning a dockyard being built with grant assistance from India.
Absolutely. In the last many years, no matter which administration has been in power, India has supplied whatever was required. There was a water crisis in Maldives. India was the first to in fact send in Air Force aircrafts, transport aircrafts with a lot of water for the civilian population. We have built schools there, we have built infrastructure, we have given ambulances, we've done whatever was possible for the civilian population of Maldives and come to their rescue. India is not just one of the closest ally of Maldives, but is actually physically and geographically the closest. If there is a natural disaster, God forbid, if there is something, whatever that happens in Maldives, India is the 911 call for Maldives every time. This is admitted by the former presidents and vice presidents. Now imagine at a time Prime Minister Modi and the President of India invited the President and a special delegation along with him from Maldives to India to be at the Rashtrapati Bhavan forecourt, to be a part of witnessing history of Prime Minister Narendra Modi swearing in for the 3rd consecutive time, the council ministers also swearing in. Immediately after that, what you do is, instead of having robust ties, having better ties, at least on a humanitarian level, at least on a speaking terms level, you actually backstab New Delhi. You actually go against the rules of engagement, against the rules of diplomacy, and good pleasantries between good leaders.
Right. And it's all because this government which has come to power in the Maldives, Aditya, essentially they came on a pro-China plank, isn't it? And that's what continues to be the problem over here.
Absolutely. China is the big dragon in the room, if I can say so, Krishna. In this particular case, President Muzu is seen as a closest aide of China. He's almost surrendering to the diktats of China. And secondly, I'm pretty sure if the Dornier aircraft that India has gifted is sent back, it will be replaced by a Chinese aircraft or a Chinese helicopter in there with Chinese soldiers on ground. Secondly, he is also Islamist in his tendency. He has defense agreements with Turkey. One of the first agreements that he did immediately after coming to power and visits was both to China and Turkey, aligning with them, having Islamist tendency, and that's why we've having studies of increased radicalization now happening in Maldives, unfortunately. In the past also, there have been ISIS recruits that have been placed to Maldives. They have taken Maldives as a shelter in many cases. And now the question really is, how will this new administration not only balance ties between India, China, Turkey and many of its traditional strategic allies, but how will domestically he hold ground? He might have won the elections in the past, the two local elections as well. But there is a lot of question that is being asked to the Maldives president of how the closest ally, that is India, is being completely isolated, is being completely rebuked time and again by Maldives. And if so, what is the replacement strategy? What is the way ahead strategically that Maldives has in store for them?
Right, and this again will impact that thing that gets spoken about very often. All those Indian tourists who are going to the Maldives, who have stopped going to the Maldives simply because they've been disenchanted with the way people in the government have been speaking about India, speaking about Indians, making comments that are completely unwarranted, especially for somebody like India, who's the leader of the global south, who's been a fantastic big brother of a neighbor, not just being a big brother because we're big in size and big as an economy, but actually genuinely, reaching out and providing assistance and help, even without them having to ask, us being the best possible leader of the region. And this is what you get reminded for them. And there were a lot of hopes that, at this stage, now that Mohammed Muiz has come back, also they've sort of realized the fact that with all those Indians cancelling their flight tickets and their holidays to Maldives, it's their revenue, it's their tourism, and their economy dependent on tourism, dependent on Indian tourists to a large extent. This will again, force so many Indians to not even keep Maldives as an alternative to travel.
Currently, I'll tell you, over the last 10 years, Indians were the highest number of tourists in Maldives, in lakhs in number. Every month, every holiday season, Indians throng Maldives like, anybody's business. So, we have to realize that the biggest consequence of the political or the policy shift of the Maldives government has been their tourism. There are lovely islands out there. I haven't gone there, but I know so many people who have. And every year, celebrities in India also take vacations in Maldives. That has reduced drastically, I can tell you. In the latest figures that have been calculated since January, Feb of 2024, India has dropped to number 4 or number 5 today. The number 1 has been taken by who? Guess China. And that is something that was expected on the lines, but can China come to the rescue of Maldives for a long run? Can China really replace India? Can a democratic republic, a secular democratic republic like India, be replaced by an autocratic China to come to the rescue of Maldives each and every time with the kind of espionage charges, with the time of debt trap that the Chinese have done, not just in Sri Lanka, in Pakistan, in a lot of many other countries. You had a lot of European countries now questioning, Italy, Greece and others, that what kind of a debt trap is that? A lot of these agreements have been cancelled by many European countries with China as well, clearly realizing that what the end game was by Beijing. Right. So I think there will be a time when President Muzi will reconsider and recalibrate on his policy decisions, but at this time it is certainly not going to help the cause of Maldives and especially the civilians and the population of Maldives.